Hi everyone. For our 8th grade Elevate groups, today students will be solving word problems with decimals and fractions. So these word problems will highlight all 4 operations. And so for that reason, we're not going to spend any time on a specific introduction because this introduction, for example, it only highlights how to add and subtract decimals. But we know that we are going to focus on adding and subtracting fractions and decimals. So we want to spend a little bit of time highlighting each of those. So the first model that you're going to do is around adding two decimals. And we know that this is an addition question because it says how many grams is the total mixture. Total tells us that we need to add. Reminding students that when they are adding or subtracting decimals, we must ensure our digits are lined up according to place value. So this might be one of those lessons where you want to have a place value chart on hand so students can, or even graph paper on hand so that they can line up their digits, or you can be like me and have them draw lines to keep track of each digit and its place value, right? So the question that you want to ask when you place these two values in the place value chart is, what digit can I put in the ones place since I have no ones? Students will identify that 0 can be used as a placeholder, right? Because I have nothing in the ones place for my second number. The number 0 represents nothing. Okay, so then we're going to do another model. This one is around fraction subtraction. And so we know that these two fractions need to be subtracted because the word difference is a buzzword for me. So when I put both of these fractions into an equation, what I notice is I cannot subtract them because they have different denominators. So that might even be a question that you want to ask students. Okay, well, what's my barrier to success in subtracting these two fractions? And students may say, oh, well, we can't subtract them because they don't have the same denominator. Okay, so what do we need to do then? What we would need to do is to create equivalent fractions that get us to having these both fractions, that get us to have both of these fractions with the same denominator. So 3/4, the first fraction needs to be multiplied by 3/3. 3/3 is equal to 1 whole, so it's not going to change the value of our new fraction, right? 3 times 3 multiplying across gives us 9, and then 4 times 3 multiplying across gives us 12, right? So instead of 3/4, we're now working with 9/12. And then the same thing can be said. We want a denominator of 12 now, so we would need to multiply the second fraction by 4/4 because 3 times 4 gives us 12 and 1 times 4 gives us 3. So now both of these fractions have a denominator of 12. We know we did good work. That's what we wanted. So we can go ahead and subtract now. So 9/12 minus 4/12, because they have the same denominator, we just subtract across. 9 minus 4 gives us 5/12. Okay, and then down here I've just drawn a visual for you to see what it would look like for us to do the subtraction using an area model. Then you're going to jump into 2 other models. One is around decimal multiplication. Pay specific attention to where the decimal point goes once you have your product, right? So I anticipate that with the practice students have been doing over the past few months, that they shouldn't struggle much to, if they ignore the decimal points in each of these numbers and just do the long multiplication as normal. But students might struggle with identifying where to put the decimal point back in. So you let students know that in our first factor, there are 2 decimal places, and that in our second factor, there's 1, right? So 2 plus 1 is 3. So we need to move in 3 spaces. Our decimal point is after the 1. Another way that students can identify where the decimal point goes is by asking them, okay, well, what's 0 times 1? Students will say 0, right? So if we're estimating, we're using the 0 and the 1 to estimate these numbers, right? But we want a number that's close to 0. If we put the decimal point right here, 13 is not close to 0. If we put the decimal point right here, 133 is not close to 0. And then if we put the decimal point right here, 1,330 is not close to 0. So the only place that makes sense is to put our decimal point right here, which we know that 1 is close to 0. And then the last model that you are going to do is question C, which is around division, right? We know that this is a division question because it talks about cutting sandwiches into pieces and then sharing them. So we know that we're dividing. So again, something that you want to highlight for this question is that we cannot have a divisor with a decimal. So what we would have to do is move the decimal point one place to create a whole number. In mathematical language, what we are doing is we are multiplying 4.5 or 4 and 5/10 times 10, right? So 4 and 5/10 times 10 gives us 45. And whatever we do to our divisor, we need to do to our dividend. So because we multiplied our divisor by 10, we also need to multiply our dividend by 10. And so that gives us 720 divided by 45. So once students do their long division, they should get an answer of 16. From there, you'll have about 15 minutes for partner practice. Because there are so many different skills in this one lesson, please use your discretion as the teacher in the room who's been working with these students for months on which questions to prioritize. So if you know that your students are great with addition and subtraction of decimals, then don't do questions 1 and 2. But if you know that your students need extra at-bats at long division and multiplication, then you definitely want to have them do questions 3 and 4 during that time. And same thing goes for the continued work time on this page with the fractions as well. If they already know how to multiply and divide fractions, don't have them spend unnecessary time on that. Select the questions that you think will be most beneficial for them to kind of grow during the 15 minutes that they're being given. And so because, again, this lesson focuses on a lot of at-bats with different skills, there is no exit ticket for the day. Just practice, practice, practice time.